In this video, I'm going to show you how to repair your fat PS3. This works on the slims and the slides whenever they have what's known as the yellow light of death or the blinking red light of death. Usually it'll turn yellow very fast, go to red, the light will start blinking, and it beeps 3 times. So first off, you have to have a torx head, and it's required for only the screw that's right here. It can be a pain to line up on. Once you get that out, this top slides and comes right off. On this one, the plastic piece that's held by the screw right here is broken. So the screw, unfortunately, really doesn't hold the top on. Once you get that out, there's several screws on the top. You have that screw, that screw. Well, you can see where they all are. There's one here, 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 here. You have to pull all those screws out to be able to take the top off. These are all Phillips. That one's not wanting to loosen off. Not good. As you can see, there's a ribbon right there. It plugs down onto the board. Pull that ribbon. That one does not want to unscrew. Now I come out. The top comes off, and now you have the PS3. Turn that to face forward. Okay, you literally have to disassemble the entire system. see it. There's a plug. Going back to the power supply. This is the power supply unit. You have to disconnect that. There are literally screws everywhere you have to pull. Now you need a small Phillips screwdriver for the couple of small screws that's in this thing. There's one there and one right back here. Ah yes. Turn this thing back to the side. You have the hard drive bay right here. Unfortunately, this has to come out. The blue screw is for the hard drive. Just flip that little tab. The bay comes out. Now the whole unit will pop out. There's the broken screw holder. That's the cooling system. Now we have to pull this back plate off, which is just held on with a few little snaps. You just pull them up. It should pop off and come off. Unfortunately, there's little snaps on both sides. Just pop those off, it comes right off. Okay, that looks good. There's two small metal plates, one there, one there. Both of those have to come off. That's what holds over the graphical processor unit and the cell processor. Now you can pull this top off. And the two areas on the top that you're going to heat are these two sets of memory chips here. And right here where the core processor and the graphical processor both set. For now, we're going to flip this over. Plug that. This is my PS3 that yellow lighted death several months ago. Go ahead and pull that fan unit out so I can blow that out. There's your fan unit. There's your processor. That's the cell processor. That's the graphical processor. Now we have to pull the hard drive bay off. That cover comes off. And now the areas that you're going to heat on this side are the two processors and those two sets of memory chips right there. It's time to grab the heat gun. Okay, now the heat gun that you need, I just with the lows, got one of the Wagners. You need one that's got the high and low setting. This one's got high and low. Low is 750 degrees, high is 1000. And in general, you're going to want to do this on 750 degrees. One of the things that you need to do first is clean the old heat sink grease and compound off the processor and the GPU. Both of them should be fairly clean. They don't have to be absolutely perfect. You just got to get most of it off. You're going to end up putting more back on in a little while anyway. You just don't want to melt the heat sink grease and get it down into things that you don't want it making contact with. And at the same time, you have two contacts, both of those, for the heat transfer. You want to clean it off of both of them too, the same way you did the two processors. Because if you get too much heat sink grease or thermal compound, it can actually act as a thermal capacitor and increase the heat rather than help pull it away and cool it. Well, let's get this show started. Okay, we're going to start the process now of heating this to refloat the solder. And whenever you float this over the chips, you want to go in a circular motion over each one for about 15 seconds each. A lot of people will tell you anywhere between 10 and 30 seconds. 30 is overkill, 10 is not quite enough. 15 to 20 works great. Warm up and start blowing hot air. There we go. You want to get it pretty close. spacers. Okay, and now you have to let that set for roughly, I would say about 5 to 10 minutes to cool. Flip it over and do the other side. We'll be back shortly. Okay, now it's time to do the other side of the board. Again, you're going to go right here, these chips and these chips. 15 seconds a piece on a 750 degree low setting. Let it warm back up again. And here we go. And that is it. Gotta let it sit and cool again for about another 10 minutes, and then you'll be ready to put it back together. Keep in mind that this repair is absolutely temporary. The PlayStation 3 will run for about another month before it goes again, and you have to redo all this. So my advice is don't put the entire thing back together and all the screws in it, because you're going to wind up just pulling it back apart again. We'll see you in 10. Well, now it's time for the magic trick of magic tricks, putting this dude back together and actually getting it to work. So first, I've blown this out, so I need to put it back together. Numerous times I've been told the right tool for the right job. put the top back on. Flip it over. Now we'll turn this so that we can see. You have the cell processor, and now you can actually see the name of it quite well. And you're going to need thermal compound. I prefer Arctic Silver. Put a thin layer over the entire processor. Geez, I hope I have enough to do both of these. And trust me, I do mean a thin layer. You don't want to go too thin and you don't want to go too thick. There are actually a lot of people out there that don't like my method for putting heat sink thermal compound on. They say I cheat. I say I've been doing it long enough. I know how to get it on there. And you should end up with it like that. And I see a few spots where there's bare metal showing. You want to make sure you see no spots like that. Of course, once you put the heat sink cooling fan on, a lot of that is going to get covered right off the bat. You want to make sure you line that dude up. It'll only go on one way anyway. You want to make sure you put it on that one way. As soon as you get it lined up right, it'll drop into place, and there's a little tiny connector right up here that you have to reconnect. Don't worry, it only goes in one way. Now we can flip it over. To put a little extra tension on it, on the heat sinks, I have a couple of sets of quarters that are taped. That just forces it to put extra tension on it, and also holds those metal plates up to where it can vent heat a little better out the top. Now, trust me, these can be a pain to get in place. Sometimes they'll start just fine, sometimes they're a pain. That one started just fine. You don't want to over torque these. Just skirt it down until it actually makes contact with the little metal flap and stops. And then you might go just a tiny bit more to make sure it's snug. The screws are easy to tell. They're specially designed just for this, to pass through the board. So yes, haha, something designed for practical application. And at this particular point, both sides of the board are now held together. You got to put the two little screws back in the hard drive case, the hard drive bay. At this point, we are ready to completely reassemble this beast. That little wire right there has to slide underneath that tab and line up with that screw hole and set on top of it. That is a ground screw. And there is a very specific screw. It's got a big metal washer on it. It's made just for that ground. Let me get that in the groove. Alright, next up, the power supply. You see, there's two holes right here that line up on those two pins. It just drops right on. Then there's a connector here, and this connector that plugs into the hole right back here to the power supply. Now we gotta screw the power supply back down. This is probably the one item that you really do want to make sure you get all the screws in, because it grounds the entire system. And yes, sadly, there are screws everywhere for this thing. Okay. Go ahead and put this small screw back in right there. Okay, now I'm just going to put enough screws in it to secure it down, but without going just absolutely nuts. So we'll put this one in the corner. Put this one in this corner. And we'll put this one in the front corner. There's one that'll go through this back corner from the top, so you won't have to worry about it. There's supposed to be two more in the front right here. I'm not going to worry about them. I'm going to end up having to break it back down again anyway, so. Okay, so we got the 4 screws in the corners. Don't worry about the one back here. We got the power supply put back on, the screws there, 2 in the back. Got the power supply unit turned back on, or plugged back in. There's a plug right there in the back. Another plug right there in the front. And then this has a ribbon cable. Plugs in right there in the front. Just drop it in, flip the little tab up, lock it in place. And then it literally just flips and sits down right into that spot. Put the screws back in it, secure it in place. This also provides shielding for your wireless controllers. And then this little piece on the wire goes right back here. Definitely want to make sure you don't accidentally pinch that cord, that black cable. Okay. Now this has 2 sockets it's got to plug into. It's got to plug in right here. And this plugs in here. But you want to make sure you get the ribbon cable in first. Yes, if you shake like I do, that can be a tit smidget of a challenge. Okay, and you don't have to put any screws in the DVD drive or the Blu-ray drive, because there's actually screws that come in from the top through the case that plug into that. Now you have the power and reset buttons. There's a ribbon cable. Plugs in right there in the front port. Okay. Now the hard drive slides into the bay like that. Just grab the tab and slide it forward. It locks into place. And then you need your little blue screw. Screws in right there. Hard drive is secured. Kind of got ahead of myself a little while ago. tend to happen. Having to pull that back because I forgot that this metal plate right here has to go underneath it. Jeez. As you can tell, sometimes they don't like to play fair, they don't like to cooperate, and they will fight with you. As that little connector is doing. I'll just cheat and set that right there. There we go. I was going to say, like it or not, it's going in. Screws back in it. There's that one. That one. And this little corner screw. And unfortunately, it screws into that plate as part of the grounding. Set this back where it belongs. And now we're ready to put the top on. Now, as you recall, we have this ribbon cable right here that plugs in the center. And that little dude can be a tidbit of a pain to get in place. Oh, it's going to drop right in this time. But now the little lever doesn't want to flip up to lock it. Force the little lever up. The top will just set on, and it's not wanting to. Okay, now I'm going to put this screw back in, this screw back in, do this one, and that one. And so that it's grounded, I guess I'll go ahead and put one of these in. Right here. If you have the older unit, that one screw grounds the card readers. I'm not going to bother putting the screw back in the top. Just slide the top back on, set it in place. The moment of truth. Does it work? Okay, Okay, there it is set up. Here's the moment of truth. Does it power on? Green light. Looking good. Staying green. Voila, we have PlayStation 3. That's how you fix the yellow light of death.